Hello and welcome to Business 360. I'm Archana Solanki. Here are the headlines we're tracking this evening. Sensex and the Nifty end the budget week at a new record high. Both indices are up over 1% this week thanks to a Friday rally. This is the 8th straight week of gains, the longest winning streak in 7 years. India's largest airline Indigo reports a strong first quarter as revenues rise by 17%. IndusInd Bank disappoints as profits decline for the first time in over 5 years. Cipla beats estimates with a 6% revenue growth. With 70 top companies reporting Q1 earnings so far, a CNBC-TV18 analysis shows only 18 companies have seen EPS upgrades, 40 companies have seen downgrades so far.
It's not been increased because I want more money. And it's not been increased for everything. Every asset class has to be treated similarly.
Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman defends the tax changes in the budget, says government is open to feedback, but the finance bill is now with Parliament. Pledges to continue with higher public spending, says government is not in a hurry to shut the shop on capex. Draft RBI rules require banks to set aside a higher buffer of liquid assets for deposits from April next year, says the adjustment is to ensure banks have sufficient liquidity to meet cash demands of customers who use internet and mobile banking facilities. Bond yields fall to multi-year lows on expected higher demand for bonds from banks. CNBC-TV18 News Break confirmed Mankind Pharma set to buy Bharat Serums from private equity player Advent in a deal worth over 13,600 crore rupees. CNBC-TV18 first reported about the deal on the 14th of May. Ola Electric all set to drive into the Lal Street. Sources say the initial public offer is set to open on the 2nd of August. Valuation likely to be just over $4 billion. Some relief for SpiceJet and a setback for the former promoter of the airline, Kalanidhi Maran. Supreme Court rejects Maran's plea and upholds a division bench order against the arbitral award of 578 crore rupees plus interest. Apex Court orders the High Court to assign the case to a different judge. Fears of double taxation loom large after Karnataka government passes a legislation to impose a 2% cess on cinema tickets, OTT subscriptions and TV channels. There's little clarity on how the bill will be implemented. France rail network hit by arson attacks hours before the Paris Olympics opening ceremony. State-owned operator says installations along lines connecting the country's north, west and east to Paris. The opening ceremony will see athletes from over countries cruising along River Seine.
We cannot look away in the face of these tragedies. We cannot allow ourselves to become numb to the suffering, and I will not be silent.
After meeting Israel's Prime Minister, Kamala Harris says she will not stay silent on the suffering in Gaza, also acknowledging Israel's right to defend itself. Former President Barack Obama and Michelle Obama endorsed Harris and her bid for the White House. Right, let's start with the market action. Sensex and Nifty hit record high in trade to end the budget week at a new peak. Sensex gained nearly 1,300 points and the Nifty gained nearly 500 points. Mid-caps kept pace with the blue chips, but bank stocks underperformed. The rally on Friday ensured both indices ended the week in the green. Nifty gained over 1% this week. This is the 8th straight week of gains, marking the longest winning streak in 7 years. The mid-cap index gained over 3%, but bank stocks saw profit booking and the Nifty Bank index ended lower by nearly 2%. The changes in taxes were not to shore up government revenues, but to ensure uniform treatment of asset classes. That's the word from Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman, speaking at the Budget Open House organized by the RP Sanjeev Goenka Group in partnership with CNBC-TV18. The Finance Minister said that the government aims to simplify the tax system. She added that the government is not in a hurry to shut the shop on capex.
At least I can tell you under Prime Minister Modi, nothing is done just with the back of the envelope calculations. We go through rigorously. We talk with people who are concerned in these areas. And only then, not for revenue considerations, I underline that. More for ease of doing business, more for simplification, more for rationalization. Have we brought changes in the tax? It's not been increased because I want more money. And it's not been increased for everything. Every asset class has to be treated similarly and nothing more. We'd like to be sure that the public spending actually does the job of bringing public infrastructure and bettering it as well. So it is not a temporary solution that we thought is required post-COVID. India still has infrastructure deficit in some parts of the country. Infrastructure still has a lot of work to do. So I wouldn't be in a hurry to say, can I shut that shop? No. So, of course, that doesn't mean we'll keep doing it and we'll not have a view on private sector investment. We will want that to be ramped up, there's no doubt.
Right, on to the big earnings today. Interglobe Aviation reported a strong first quarter, even as profits declined by 12% year-on-year. The airline has managed to post a profit for 7 straight quarters. Revenue growth is at 17% and EBITDA saw a growth of 4%. It was a weak first quarter for IndusInd Bank, with both net profit and net interest income missing expectations. The private lender's asset quality also deteriorated, with gross NPA rising 2% sequentially. Meanwhile, net interest margin stood at 7-quarter low of 4.25%. Shares of Cipla jumped in trade and ended 5% in the green after posting a good set of numbers in the first quarter. Net profit rose more than 18%, while revenue jumped nearly 6% on an annual basis. The company's US division raked in $250 million in sales versus $226 in the fourth quarter. About 70 top companies in the Nifty 200 index have reported their earnings so far. Many have seen EPS downgrades and only a handful have seen upgrades. Prashant Nair is here with the Q1 report card.
Thanks very much for that. You know, it's perhaps too early to call it a full report card because it's not a full accounting of things. As you said, what we're basically trying to do is looking at how earnings expectations for FY25 have changed in the last 1 month for companies out of the NSE 200 list. And these are the top tracked, well-owned companies, liquid, large, mid companies. And you know, how many have seen upgrades to their full year estimates and how many have seen downgrades. So the reason I say it's not a full accounting, if it's not even half the accounting, is because only 70 have reported out of NSE 200 as of yesterday's close. But out of the 70 which have reported, I mean, I think the numbers are pretty, stark. 40 have seen EPS being downgraded. Only 18 have seen EPS numbers being upgraded. And mind you, out of these 18 companies also, you got lots of, I mean, about 4 or 5 of them where the upgrades are about 1%, 1.5%, small upgrades. So I'm counting for that as well. So this is essentially the list of companies which have seen the largest downgrades. I'm not putting out all of them, but Bank of Maharashtra, Paytm, which of course was a big mover, but for other reasons, JSW has seen full year 25 earnings being taken down 12%. There is Loris, you know, a lot of tech companies, right? Coforge, Tata Elxsi, Tata Technologies have seen these downgrades. Tata Communication is another one which is down about earnings around 6%, marked down by the street. These are all from sort of Bloomberg consensus estimates. Asian Paints, Dalmia Bharat, and SRF as well. As I said, total of 40, but the top ones there. Now, which are the companies which have seen upgrades? You'll find a lot of insurance companies here. So look at this, ICICI Pru, there is ICICI Lombard, SBI Life, HDFC Life. This is the cohort which has seen the maximum upgrades. There is asset management company, HDFC AMC as well, which has seen about a 8% upgrade. Others, there is Suzlon, Kotak Bank, Canara Bank, and a BPCL out there. So 18 here, but of course I've not put all of them, but the top upgrades which are really coming through. I mean, markets continue to do very well, and I hope that as the earnings season proceeds and we get to the 50% mark, and then of course beyond that, you get more positive surprises because, at the end of the day, stocks, at least in the medium to long term, will return what earnings return. So you need earnings growth to pick up substantially, at least till now, from what we've seen, that has not been happening. Back to you.
Right. Thank you, Prashant, for that. Moving on, the Reserve Bank of India has proposed higher buffer of liquidity assets on deposits in view of the rise in mobile and internet banking transactions. The draft proposes that banks keep 10% as liquid assets for stable deposit as against 5% earlier, and 15% in liquid assets for less stable deposits as against 10% earlier. RBI has proposed that the new norms will come into effect from April next year. It has invited comments and feedback from stakeholders by the end of August. Jeffries estimates that this move will have a 4 to 10% impact on the earnings per share of banks. Meanwhile, banks expect that the demand for bonds may go up by 5 lakh crore rupees. This has pushed up prices of government bonds. And we told you first, and now it's official. Mankind Pharma is set to acquire 100% stake in Bharat Serums and Vaccines from Advent International. The deal is worth over 13,600 crore rupees. The acquisition will boost Mankind Pharma's position in the women's health and fertility drug market. My colleague Rachna Rajani is here with us for more details.
Right. Thanks, Rachna. We did report it first on May 14th that Mankind Pharma will be buying Bharat Serums and Vaccine from Advent International, and now it has been confirmed by the company. In fact, the announcement came in late last evening. The enterprise value of this deal is pegged at about 13,600 crores, but we're closely watching out for two things importantly. First is a question that how will Mankind Pharma fund this acquisition? Shortly after we reported on May 14, the company had come up with an announcement that they're preparing an acquisition war chest of about 7,500 crore through equity. And now sources have told CNBC-TV18 that 7,500 crore will be put to this purpose of acquiring BSV, and the rest will be raised through debt. Apart from that, what we and the market will closely be looking out for is the integration of Bharat Serums and Vaccine, as this would mean a very significant leap, in fact, for Mankind Pharma in women's fertility drug market. So we'll be watching out closely for that.
Right, thank you, Rachna, for that update. Moving on, Ola Electric is all set to drive into the Lal Street. Sources have told CNBC-TV18 that the company's initial public offer will open on the 2nd of August, with a likely listing on the 9th of August. Ola Electric's valuation is likely to be $4.25 billion. The company is looking to raise up to 500 crore rupees via a combination of a fresh issue and an offer for sale. The Health Ministry, in a reply in Parliament, said that over 3,000 drugs were found to be substandard and over 400 drugs were declared spurious by drug controllers in 2023. The CDSCO, along with State Drugs Controller, conducted risk-based inspections of more than 400 premises. Based on these inspections, over 300 actions like show-cause notices and suspensions were taken. The Supreme Court has issued notices to the centre and the governors of West Bengal and Kerala after the state governments alleged that they were sitting on bills passed by the Assembly. Both the states had filed separate pleas challenging the governors' decisions to delay several bills for months. The pleas cited that governors allegedly either refused to sign the pending bills or reserved them for President's consideration. The Karnataka Assembly has given a nod to a bill that proposes to impose a cess of up to 2% on movie tickets and revenue of TV channels and OTT subscriptions. This has sparked fears of double taxation while raising questions on the practicality of the move, particularly when it comes to OTT platforms and TV channels. Ashmit Kumar joins us for more on this. Ashmit, take us through the contours of the bill and the questions it raises.
Well, the intentions of the Karnataka government appear to be very noble, to set up a welfare fund to address the needs and provide social security cover for cine and cultural activists. The way they've gone about it, however, has raised many questions. By way of this bill, it was passed by the lower house of the Karnataka Assembly on Tuesday. Last evening, it was passed by the upper house. Now it is awaiting the assent of the governor for it to become a formal act. But what it seeks to do is to levy what it calls is a welfare cess. Now, this welfare cess will be levied on movie tickets, on multiplexes, on TV channels, and importantly, OTT platforms. Now, cinema and multiplex, one can understand, but the question of TV channels and OTT platforms is what has raised many eyebrows. Number one, the question that has been raised is that, is this really the remit of the state government? Does it have the legislative competency to levy a tax on an issue that is already seeing the levy of GST. This, in fact, we spoke to some of the industry leaders as well. What they also tell us, they're raising the question of double taxation. Is this a case of a double taxation? Since GST is already being paid on any subscription amount that may be being paid to an OTT platform or a TV channel, is this a case then of double taxation? There is also the question of how do you designate or attribute a revenue, a portion of the revenue, to a specific geography. These are many questions being raised, especially now that the Karnataka government, the Karnataka Assembly importantly, has passed this bill. Welfare cess of 2%, representations importantly, are already going to the leadership at the state government level as well as to the governor.
Thank you, Ashmit, for that. That tour, it's time for a short break. Coming up next, France rail network hit by arson attacks hours before the Paris Olympics opening ceremony, which is set to see global athletes cruising along the River Seine. Details when we return. Stay tuned. Welcome back. Hours before the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games in Paris, France's rail network has been hit by arson attacks. The attacks have caused major disruption to some of the country's busiest rail lines and has also caused travel chaos across Europe. State-run operator SNCF has said that installations along lines connecting the country's north, west and east to its capital of Paris have been affected. Sanjay Suri gets us the latest from Paris.
Well, I'm here at the Montparnasse train station in Paris, and this is where a number of TGV train lines were due to arrive this morning from the north, from the west and from the east. And of course, the trains didn't arrive. There was sabotage along the way. Fires were started on all three routes, leading to severe delays on those trains. An estimated 800,000 passengers were affected. Their travel has been delayed. Thankfully not disrupted as extensively as feared earlier. Those difficulties and those acts of sabotage have been detected. The damage caused has been rectified, but of course there is a strong knock-on effect, and that means a lot of the fast train services have had to be diverted to other lines, and there is extensive delay. This of course has hit a lot of people's travel plans to attend the opening ceremony later this evening here in Paris. And there is concern that if this is the kind of sabotage that we've seen on day one of the Olympic Games as they get off to a start, what people may get up to through the course of more than 2 weeks of the Games to follow. The police and the security services have done all they could to prevent exactly some such thing, but some people have found a way around it, and there is concern they may do so again. Further tightening of security and intelligence is now certain. Whether that will ensure a blanket protection against any such acts of vandalism or sabotage really is far from certain. The Games get off but under a cloud of fear over terrorist attacks or at least disruptive actions.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of Business 360. News and updates continue right here on CNBC-TV18.